Hi, everybody. I want to start today with a brief explanation about what I've described as the supported professional reflection for the academic directorate. This essentially is a system that we can put into place which covers off all of those responsibilities we know we already have when it comes to working with our team, building their capacity, and taking them through a process where they feel as though they've been valued, that we've listened to them, and that they can improve their practice going forward. Just a 5-minute video to quickly explain it, and it harks back to the presentation I gave the Academic Directorate in JanCon 2022. So we start with meeting 1. This meeting, we use a strengths-based coaching approach where we talk with our staff and our teachers, and we talk them through, first of all, what are they doing really, really well? And I think the first thing to do is to ask them that question, to say, what do you think you're doing well? What's going great? What's being fantastic? And this sets up that conversation in a really positive light straight away from the very beginning. Part of that conversation, though, with most people naturally then turns to what are some of the areas that they're thinking about developing? What are some of their areas that perhaps they have difficulty with, or they see them as a weakness? And that's when you start to get that self-assessment of current performance. And again, that's so much more effective if they're bringing those things up rather than if we're telling them, these are the things we think you're doing wrong, which generally doesn't seem to work at all. Then in meeting 1, we want to set those targets for the year. We want to make sure they've got some clear ideas about what they need to do going through this year and make them a real year-based target, even if it's something a bit more general across 3 years. What are they going to get done this year that's going to improve their practice and help them to reflect on how to get better? If that requires some potential support, maybe some professional learning, maybe some extra research, that's when you would discuss that. And then you'd give them some space to raise some of their own important issues. There might be something that perhaps they've noticed or they're seeing that isn't quite working for them. And in that meeting, number 1, you have to allow them that space to say, have you got any concerns? How are things going for you? Are there any quick changes, quick fixes that I could make going forward that will help you to do your absolute best? So this strengths-based approach is very much about praise. It's very much about talking through what's going really, really well. And then that, as I mentioned, that encouragement to reflect on the areas they want to develop or enhance, and then follow that up with, well, goals. And goals don't always have to be, oh, these are the weaknesses, so what are your goals to improve those weaknesses? I think that's important. Goals can be something just really positive, getting even better at something or exploring an area that perhaps they haven't even thought of yet. So the goals could be something really inspirational and interesting. They don't always have to be, oh, you have difficulty with behavior management, so therefore your goal is to improve your behavior management. Perhaps that could be one of them, but then maybe their other goal is to research a particular area that they're really, really interested in. And those goals, those SMART targets, I like using the word SMART. The specific is really, really important. Don't let them be wishy-washy. Make one thing. And how, I suppose the key is, how are you going to measure them? How are you going to measure that they've actually achieved them at the end? And that, again, is not something for you as a head of learning to have to decide. That's something for them to reflect on and for them to decide as well. And as I mentioned, as you get towards the end of that meeting, giving them space to raise any important issues. I put together this template for this meeting. It asks exactly those questions in that order, so that should help. So basically going through, looking at the questions on the left, noting down their answers on the right. In our website, our Schoolbox site for leading learning, this template exists both as a Word document, so you can just type straight in, or as a PDF if you want to print it out and write it. Meeting 2. Well, that's, as part of this process, should happen in term 2 or 3. In meeting 2, you have the opportunity to discuss the student voice surveys that are coming up, to discuss the lesson observation that we all need to do with our staff as well, and to just monitor the progress of that staff member towards the goals that they mentioned in meeting 1. How have they gone so far? Have they attended a professional learning that's going to assist them? Have they done some research? Have they tried to implement something already within the classroom? How's it going? Is it working well? And I would also say in meeting 2, give them that space to raise important issues. Again, even though you've done it at the start, anything arisen over the last couple of months. Then we get to meeting 3, and that's really the opportunity in term 4 for you to say, right, show us evidence that you've achieved this goal. But if you haven't, fine, that happens. Maybe you've got you've had to go and do something different. Maybe there's another area that you had to focus on that arose during the year. So that original goal you set right back in meeting 1 that we talked about in meeting 2, maybe that's not relevant anymore. And that's all okay. I suppose it's that thing of having a nice big open conversation, which is actually, that's the most important aspect of this process, rather than always just ticking things off. But it is nice to have those goals achieved. It is nice to look at the evidence of those goals as well, and to analyze the data, maybe from the student voice survey and that sort of thing, and raise any issues going forward for the future. Record keeping, what we would really like is for you to keep the records of the minutes of these 3 meetings. So really important you keep the records for meeting 1 in particular, because obviously you have to refer to them back in meeting 2 and meeting 3. And also just keep them on file in your own learning area, because that will assist us down the track if, as you can see at the top there, that performance management process, if for whatever reason we have to enact that, if that's, from a few parental complaints or something, God forbid, for a staff member in your team, or for whatever other reason, having that evidence could actually be really, really important, not just for us, but also for that teacher concerned going forward. So those meetings, of those minutes of meetings filed, the evidence of the target achieved would be great if you want to put that in there as well, if that's what the staff member has brought you, and the lesson observation forms. I have provided for you on that Schoolbox site a coaching guide. So if you want to read about strengths-based approach coaching, there's a little guide there. It's only about, I think, 12 pages or 14 pages. Have a read through there. It tells about the philosophy behind that and some of the research behind that. There's, as I showed you, those meeting templates and questions. There's information about a self-assessment template. There's the lesson observation form, which is similar to the one that Jackie devised here at St. Leonard's many years ago now, with a few little tweaks. So you can use all those. If you think you've got something just as good that you like using, then that's absolutely fine. So as long as we're keeping a record of it, no problem. And as long as it's following this basic principles behind this process, then that's great as well. But I thought I'd do a bit of that work for you, show you the process, give you the templates, which just makes things much easier for you. It's the system to assist your own leadership and management. And as I mentioned, it's all on that Schoolbox site. As you can see there, those coaching handbooks and things are in the files section. A bit of information about the supported professional reflection in general. I hope this little presentation has been helpful and been a good little reminder for everybody who perhaps didn't see it in JanCon, or it's been a while ago since then. Thanks very much.